dugsiga boardingka iyo maalinlaha ah ee Amano Boarding and Day School.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome dear students. This is chapter 7, cell biology. So today we're going to take lesson 6. In our last lesson we learned about polysaccharides, which is an example of macromolecules. Today we are going to talk about lipids. Lipids are another type of macromolecules, but unlike carbohydrates, they are not polymers. I think you remember what we mean polymer. A polymer is a macromolecule which is made up of the same subunits like starch. Starch is made up of hundreds of glucose molecules joined together. Glucose plus glucose plus glucose and so on. But lipids are different. They are made up of two different types of subunits. One is called glycerol and the other one is called fatty acids. Although some lipids may have some additional subunits like phosphate groups, carbohydrates, some have protein sides and so on. Okay, lipids are diverse group of chemicals. Diverse group of chemicals means there are a number of different types of lipids. Number of different types of what? Lipids. But the most common type of are triglycerol lipids. As the name shows you, the word tri means three. Here we have glycerol. We don't mean three glycerol molecules, but it is one glycerol molecule combined by three fatty acids. This is why these type of lipids are called triglycerol lipid. It contains one molecule of glycerol combined with three fatty acids, molecules of fatty acids, which are usually known as fats and oils. The difference between fat and oil is that fat is solid at room temperature, while oils are liquid at room temperature. Generally, fats are found in animals, while oils are found in plants. Okay. Lipids are all contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. They do have three elements just like carbohydrates: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. But the difference is lipids have a lower proportion of oxygen and a higher proportion of hydrogen. This is the difference: lower proportion of oxygen and higher proportion of hydrogen. This means in carbohydrates, all carbohydrates, the ratio of hydrogen to oxygen is usually 2:1 in any carbohydrate. But lipids are different from that. For example, glucose has C6H12O6. If you calculate the ratio between hydrogen and oxygen, this is going to be 12:6, which is going to be 2:1. But if you take, for example, a glycerol molecule, this is a glycerol molecule. So the ratio between hydrogen and oxygen is going to be 8:1. So you see, please, they have a higher proportion of hydrogen and lower proportion of what? Oxygen. So that is the difference between carbohydrates and lipids. Lipids are hydrophobic. The word hydrophobic means they repel water molecules. Hydro means water, repel means they just, and phobic means rebel. That means they cannot dissolve in water, or they are insoluble in water, but are soluble in organic solvents like ethanol. They are soluble in organic, and solvents. This is the most common type of, lipids, as we mentioned it earlier. A triglycerol are made by the combination of 3 fatty acids and 1 glycerol molecule. By condensation reaction. Can you remember what do we mean by the word condensation reaction? Okay, let me tell you. Condensation reaction means removing of 1 molecule of hydrogen. So if you want to make 1 molecule of that acid, we should have this, please. We should have this. This is a glycerol molecule. Here we have 3 molecules of fatty acids. So condensation means removing 1 molecule of glucose. Here you have OH and here you have OH. So we know that water have 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen. So this is going to be 1 molecule of water. Here we also remove another molecule of water. Another molecule of water. So we remove it here, 3 molecules of water. The resulting molecule is this. So the bond which holds the glycerol molecule and the fatty acid molecule is called ester bond. So a triglycerol is made up of 1 molecule of fatty acid, glycerol, combined by 3 molecules of fatty acids by condensation reaction. The roles of, or the functions of triglycerol. Number 1, lipids make excellent energy reservoir. That means your body stores energy in 2 different forms. 1, as a short-term energy storage, it uses the chemical called ATP, adenine triphosphate. But in long-term energy storage, the body uses what? VAT. Most of the energy is converted into VATs. This is because lipids can produce more than twice as much energy as carbohydrate. For example, 1 molecule of carbohydrate can produce 17 kilojoule of energy. While the same amount of fat or lipid can produce 37 kilojoule of energy. So it produces more than twice than the same amount of carbohydrates. Okay. Number 2, lipids act as insulator. Insulator means they keep the body warm. Lipids against loss of heat. In cold weather, the lipid is stored under the skin. This is also called adipose tissue. becomes solid, and it prevents heat leaving from the body. That means it keeps the heat inside. So insulator means keep the body more or less warm. Okay, plapa, a lipid found in sea mammal. This is a lipid found in sea mammals like whales. It has a similar function like other lipids, like keeping the body warm, insulator, storing the energy. It has that function, but in addition to that, it also provides buoyancy. Buoyancy means ability of the organism to float in the water. Since lipids are less denser than water, they can provide this to the mammals in the sea. An unusual role for lipids is a metabolic source of water. Metabolic means this is a type of water which is being produced during the chemical reactions that take place in the body. When oxidized in respiration, they are converted to carbon dioxide and water. For example, the desert kangaroo rat never drinks water and survives on metabolic water from its fat intake. Finally, the classification of lipids. There are two types of lipids. One is called saturated lipid, and the other type is called unsaturated lipids. Here is the difference. In saturated lipids, there is no double bond. There is no double bond between the molecules. As a result of this, they usually have a high melting point. And give rise to fats that are usually solid at room temperature. And remember, fats is usually found in animals. Fats usually found in what place? Animals. Unsaturated fats, they have a double bond. They have what? A double bond between their carbon atoms. So the presence of double bond produces kinks. Kinks means curves. Kinks means what? Curves. So this curve stops the hydrocarbon chain of the neighboring triglycerol from lying too close together and makes lipids more fluid or melting more easily. So this is usually oils, and please remember, oils are usually found in plants. So this is the difference between them. You see, there is no double bond. They all have single bonds. They all have what? Single bonds. But here there is a double bond. So the double bond makes a kink, a curve, which makes the hydrocarbons far apart from one another. So this is why lipids found in plants is usually a liquid at room temperature. So thank you very much. That's all about what we have today. Let me remind you the main points of the lesson. The lesson was about the lipids. So what you need to know about lipids is, number one, the major components of lipids. 3, in terms of they contain 3 chemical elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, but the lower proportion of oxygen and higher proportion of hydrogen. The most common type of lipids are triglyceride lipids. They are made up of 3 molecules of fat acids combined with the 1 molecule of glycerol. Lastly, the classification of fatty acids. So there are 2 different types of fatty acids. One is called saturated. They have no any double bond, and the other one is called unsaturated. They have double bonds. So lack of double bond is what makes lipids almost fat and solid, and having the double bond is what makes lipids always liquid at room temperature. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.